Welcome into Pre-Gaming without BORDZY today. It's me, Liam, and today's show is presented by Sherwood Ford the Giant. They are hockey fans helping hockey fans, and you don't have long now since the new year is coming, but book a car service and for over $100 before December 31st and get a free tire swap on rims only. And when you bring your winter tires into the Sherwood Ford Service Center, it's also a presentation of Bet365. You can open an account today and bet on a huge range of markets over at Bet365 and use the code NATION. Welcome in. The Edmonton Oilers looking to get back on the rails today after a 4-3 overtime loss to the LA Kings yesterday on the road. And it's the mum's trip too. It's never nice to lose in front of your mum. So let me know in the chat what you thought about last night's game and what you're anticipating ahead of today's game against the Anaheim Ducks. We're going to move the show around a little bit because there was some breaking news. Jeff Skinner is out of the Edmonton Oilers lineup tonight, and Derek Ryan is in. Derek Ryan also turns 38 today, so a little birthday gift, I think, from head coach Chris Knobloch. But it's not that surprising. Jeff Skinner obviously been the guy who has been lingering around the lineup in the bottom six, someone who you weren't 100% sure what his role even was, and comments from Knobloch too that were taken out of context a little bit, I think, when he said that Jeff Skinner needs to play better hockey. That was after I can't remember what game it was. It was just before the break, whatever that was. Saying Jeff Skinner needs to play better hockey to get up the lineup. Did preface by saying he played pretty well that game. Didn't play well yesterday. 8 minutes of ice time, 8 minutes 31 of ice time. One shot on goal, -1 against the LA Kings. And like I said, Derek Ryan comes in, whose last game was against the Ottawa Senators. That was the game just before the Christmas break. The Oilers obviously won that game 3-1. Derek Ryan, again, 38 years old today. 11 minutes, 5 seconds time on ice in that game, 15 shifts. He has 1 goal in 30 games so far this season. So let me know what you think of that decision to replace Jeff Skinner in the lineup for Derek Ryan. That's pretty much the breaking news ahead of this game. There's a couple of comments in here already. Cato, is Jeff Skinner gone come the trade deadline? It's an interesting conversation. I'm kind of over it, if I have to be completely honest, and I think this decision was coming for a while now. And obviously, the Oilers moved on from a lot of guys this summer, Dylan Holloway being one of them, to bring in someone like Jeff Skinner, and it's not worked at all. He has a full no trade clause, so Jeff Skinner would have to waive that no trade clause to get things move into a different playoff team. I would assume he wouldn't want to go to a team like Columbus, for example, someone on the outside looking in. That was kind of the whole point of him coming to Edmonton, was to play some meaningful hockey. He's played over 1,000 games in his career, no playoff games. So yes, again, Jeff Skinner out of the lineup. Cato asking if Jeff Skinner is gone by the trade deadline. Let me know what you think about that. Maynard Nugent Spivey did not leave this comment in here today, but he, since the start of the season, has been saying Jeff Skinner will score less than 15 goals this season. And I got a sneaky suspicion he might be on track for that. So good prediction by Maynard there. 35 games in for Jeff Skinner. 6 goals on the season. So not ideal for Jeff Skinner at all and for the Edmonton Oilers. I think you almost have to treat him a bit like Connor Brown as well, where it's just kind of like, it is what it is. He's not playing well, but if you get Jeff Skinner going in the playoffs, even if it's just for a round, even if you get maybe 6 games overall from him where he contributes to the team in a bottom 6 role, then I don't think that's such a terrible thing too. I think people do forget Connor Brown last season in the playoffs barely played against the LA Kings and barely played against Vancouver. It really was Dallas and Florida where he had the biggest impact on the Oilers lineup. So we'll see what happens with him. Definitely not good what has happened so far with Jeff Skinner, but either way, again, Jeff Skinner out of the lineup, Derek Ryan in on his 38th birthday to bring the average age of the Oilers up even higher, being the oldest team in the league. Your new stepdad, DR, is getting a hat trick tonight, or this afternoon, I guess. Dare to dream, my friend. Dare to dream. Let's get into the need to know information brought to you by Wilhauk Beef Jerky. Only the finest tasting meat products earn the Wilhauk name. Made for 100% Alberta beef, Wilhauk Beef Jerky is aged, seasons, and marinated in smoked savory perfection. So good. So good. It is the best beef jerky you can find anywhere. I would say get your jerky on. For more information, go to willhawkbeefjerky.com. As I spit out my piece of gum there. No one wants to hear that anymore. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers, let's get into them quickly. Lost to the LA Kings last night. And I was just reading some of your comments in the chat. Yes, I do have some news to share with everybody. I guess we can get into that a little bit later on, but for now we'll just continue on with the need to know information. There was a quote from Chris Knobloch after the game this morning. He seemed to calm down a little bit, I guess you could say, where he said, the difference on the game was the Oilers couldn't maintain momentum because everyone wasn't playing their best. And I think that's very fair to say. The LA Kings obviously came back in the third period to tie the game and then also to win the game in overtime. Quinton Byfield. Maynard, good question. Thoughts on Byfield's OT goal, Sally? Yeah, it seemed like a bit much for a regular season game, but also too, I think it's fun when players do show a little bit of personality and you can kind of grow that rivalry, I suppose. And Byfield, someone who has not been playing that well this season, but has recently found his game. Really nice goals from him yesterday, especially the first one. I really liked his work off the board to kind of walk in and just be such a power forward in that moment. But again, Knobloch said couldn't maintain momentum because not everyone was playing their best. One of those players not playing their best is someone who will go back to Anaheim for the first time tonight, I believe, since getting traded. Maybe the second time. I could be mistaken on that. Adam Henrique played over 400 games with the Anaheim Ducks, was -4 yesterday against the LA Kings. And I'm not a big fan of plus minus. There's quite a few stats I actually typically hate in the NHL. I think -4 is actually pretty harsh for Adam Henrique. The first thing was, for me, Henrique was on the ice for the Kapanen goal, or he was the one who started to play, I guess, down the wall. If you watch, he makes the pass. He's the one who breaks it over there to Ty Emberson, and then he goes for a change. So you don't get the plus or the minus on that. So let's call him -3. I also think the overtime winner is kind of just is what it is. That group was out there for a while. It's also overtime. It's just one of those things I think that's happened. I also, when you go and look at the first 2 goals against, it's probably Connor Brown that makes the 2 mistakes. So -4 is not a good look, but I think it is a bit harsh on Adam Henrique in general, just in that game alone. But I do think it brings up an interesting question, and I'm curious to know what you all think about this too. And we'll make it our Oodle Noodle poll question, which we should get to. We'll throw that one in. Pat, do you think it's the right decision to healthy scratch Jeff Skinner tonight against the Anaheim Ducks, or tonight in 20 minutes against the Anaheim Ducks? But back to Adam Henrique. Is it time that the Oilers think about possibly upgrading on Adam Henrique? There's some names out there which you could possibly look at to upgrade at the center position. He's a $2 million guy. Obviously, he's in the lineup for next season as well. The Oilers are currently, it says Janmark here over at Daily Faceoff. I would strongly assume that it's Derek Ryan actually who fills in the middle here. But if you bump Adam Henrique down to your 4th line center next to Janmark and Perry, for example, and then you find a 3rd line guy, I wonder if it's the juice would be worth the squeeze, because next season the cap's going to go up. $2 million for a center of Henrique's caliber. He's still a really good player at the end of the day. Wouldn't be such a bad thing. I think it's something the Oilers should strongly consider. So I'm curious to see what you guys think. QF Pro said, bruh, what? No. I think it's something to think about. There's some names out there which could be enticing, and I'm sure more and more names will start growing on that list as well. Doug Waite said, can we get rid of Derek Ryan? I don't know when that's going to happen. I also don't know if it will happen, to be honest. I think they might just really let this one play out as long as they can. Allow Noah Philp, if that's what they choose. If they don't go out and maybe get an upgrade on the 3rd line, Derek Ryan might find a spot. I also think it's really positive to have 13 forwards in the lineup and just let some healthy competition happen. Tyler Sox, interesting one. Trade both Skinners and trade Henrique. I don't think I would be trading both Skinners. Maybe one of them. Definitely not Stuart Skinner. I'd be actually probably trying to think about other things with him. I think he was okay yesterday, wasn't he? I mean, not great. That overtime goal, I'm curious what you guys think about that too. the fact he was trying to call the ref over and being like, hey, my mask is broken, and the ref just pretty much point blank ignored him. And obviously Stuart Skinner was visibly upset about it after the game as well. Knobloch even addressed it too and said in his post game that earlier on, you guys may remember Darcy Kemper's mask came off and he called over the ref and managed to get that fixed. And the Oilers had a lot of momentum at that point. It really killed the vibe of what they were trying to get at in that moment. So a bit of a bad call by the officials, to say the least. Another player yesterday who I think the Oilers should probably get a little bit more from tonight is Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid did not register a shot on ice yesterday against the LA Kings. That is now the fourth time this season that has happened. Obviously, LA being the most recent. The Florida Panthers surprisingly did not have a shot on goal that game, despite what the scoreline was, being the 6-5 final. Did finish with 3 assists, so I think we'll let that one fly. Columbus, obviously, another one. He left the game after, what was it, his second shift, and we didn't see him for a few games after that one, so we'll let that one fly. And then the Winnipeg Jets, I think everyone was bad. So I think you could fully expect Connor McDavid to bounce back a little bit that way too and get a few shots off tonight. And also, I think that line was decent yesterday. But Connor McDavid, for a guy that scored 60 goals, some reason has such a fear of shooting the puck sometimes. It's odd. Fighting Amish. Rico has value to a young team, which is probably where a trade will be made. Rico also has no trade protection, along with not too terrible cap. But yeah, I'm not saying trade Adam Henrique. I think you should keep Adam Henrique. I just think you can find an upgrade on him. Even if you wanted to put him on the wing, I don't think that's such a bad thing too. If you remember back to the start of the playoffs last season, Henrique was playing on that top line with McDavid and Hyman. We haven't seen that at all this season. There's a few things I can consider. I think it was Chell too, put a little bit further up. Don't we already have a 3C in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? Why don't we find a winger to take his spot on the top line? Also a really good point. I think Nuge would be perfectly fine there. I think he has too much criticism for his centerman play. I think he's perfectly fine when he's in that position. Doesn't thrive as offensively, of course, but very responsible. Do you remember back a few playoffs ago? It took him a while to get going. I think it was the one where the Oilers made it to the Western Conference Finals and ultimately lost to Colorado. But if I remember correctly, he played 3C most of that run, and it took until midway through the Calgary series to get going. I don't think I'm remembering that too incorrectly, but yeah, something to think about. And maybe while you're watching the game today, running through your head, maybe Anaheim has some players you could take a look at for future Edmonton Oilers. They've obviously been shopping partners before, as early as last season. So moving on, since this is from Bob Stoffer. Since the start of the 2021-22 season, the Edmonton Oilers are 10-1-0 versus the Anaheim Ducks, outscoring them 63-24. Connor McDavid has 27 points over that run in 11 games. He's plus 14. Leon Draisaitl, 23 points. And also plus 17. You guys want to know when that game was? Because I was there. I was there for that one loss the Edmonton Oilers had against the Anaheim Ducks. It was on December 17th, so 2022. So not long ago on our calendars, and it was a loss at home, 4-3. Nurse, Nugent-Hopkins, and McDavid scored, but Lucas Dostal, who will likely be the starter today. If I haven't seen any updates, please let me know if you do, and I'll get into why shortly. He made 46 saves on the day. It was an afternoon game as well, if I'm remembering correctly. He was amazing in that game. So yeah, Lucas Dostal stole the show. Hopefully, if he is the starter today, he does not do that to the Edmonton Oilers. One other note to go to on the Oilers before we switch to the Anaheim Ducks. Evan Bouchard played his 300th NHL game yesterday against the LA Kings. So shout out to Evan Bouchard. Obviously what's the word? He's up and down, isn't he? His mistakes really are emphasized. Mark Anderson there put in the chat. I'd assume Gibson starts. Also played yesterday versus Philly. I also thought the same. Then I heard John Gibson didn't dress in that game yesterday because he has been sick. So I haven't seen anything that would suggest otherwise, that he would get the start. But from what the reports I was reading before the game, it doesn't look like he's 100% confirmed, but they'll see. They actually called up someone from San Diego yesterday. There we go. There's someone tweeted out here. the Anaheim Ducks tweeted out a picture of the goalie they called up and said they tend the goal, and his name is Kale Klang. Is still up with the Ducks, meaning John Gibson is likely out again with illness today. So, does he get the start, or will they just go Dostal back to back? I would assume. Oh, there you go. Mark says Dostal is confirmed. Thank you, Mark. Let's get into some of the news from the Anaheim Ducks. They had an interesting game last night. Mostly, this game would be pretty irrelevant most years, but it was the Anaheim Ducks versus the Philadelphia Flyers, which of course was Cutter Gautier's former team last season, and it didn't end well for him. He requested a trade, and then also in a press conference the other day, he said, I have this game circled on the calendar. I think there's a lot of mystery about what actually happened there between the Flyers and Cutter Gauthier, but obviously ended up getting traded. Jamie Drysdale going the other way, and it didn't go well for him. He didn't get any points. I believe he was -1 or -2 on the game on the night, so not ideal. The Anaheim Ducks did actually outshoot Philadelphia 33-25, but they ended up losing 3-1. They are now 3-6-1 in their last 10 games, but they do have a win over the Winnipeg Jets not that long ago. So they are capable of beating up on some good teams. I'm not beating good teams. So the Anaheim Ducks are just one of those teams only where they're so young, they're almost a little bit unpredictable, and you're not sure they could really give you either or on a nightly basis. Hopefully it's a bad one tonight for them. They have the 31st worst best home record in the NHL. They only have 6 wins at home this season. San Jose is the worst in the league. 42 goals at home, which is 30th in the league. 61 against, which is the ninth worst in the ninth most in the NHL. The power play in December is shooting at a 10% rate, or scoring at a 10% rate. Penalty kill 75%, which is 23rd in the league. There was a quote too, I believe this is from post game yesterday against the Flyers. The Oilers have got players on that team that if you give them the offensive situations, they will score. This is from Troy Terry. We need to be a little more aware of those guys, especially Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, because they are obviously amazing players. So yeah, not a favorable matchup for the Anaheim Ducks, but a favorable one for the Edmonton Oilers. And now let's move on to our Sherwood Ford Giants storyline, and I'll ask this question out to the chat today too, because it's an interesting one. There's always this idea that the Oilers don't play well against, or I guess lower their standards against bad teams around the league. And I think when you go back and look, it's interesting when you just look purely on the results. So they obviously had a tight game against San Jose. I think it's fair to say Askarov was really the only reason that happened. The Oilers actually played pretty well. They missed a few open nets, so that score could have been much, much higher and not as tight as it could have been, as it ended up being. Obviously, had a terrible loss to the Chicago Blackhawks really early in the year, and then also recently lost 3-0 to the Montreal Canadiens. That was on the road. Won in overtime against the New York Islanders, but did blow a third period lead again. So they have somewhat struggled against bad teams this season. So I'll throw it out to the chat. Can the Oilers dominate a weaker opponent tonight? What are your score predictions? What are your just predictions overall? How do you think this game will go? Is there one player in particular that you think will shine for the Edmonton Oilers? And whilst we're here, I may as well bring in our producer, Pat Puff. It's just me and Pat today on the show. No co-host. Aaron, we allowed him to have a day off around the Christmas. Pat, how you doing?
Good so far. Excited to have another matinee game. It's weird having 2 back-to-back in one weekend.
It is. Yeah, it is. But it's what is it? Just the mother's trip? Is that what the labeling this as? I think it's because usually they have like the dads and mentors one, but I think this is just purely mother's trip.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, there's not a worse one to go on than down in California for a few days. But I'll ask that question to you, Pat. Could you expect the Oilers to dominate the Anaheim Ducks tonight and kind of have a convincing win?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we played a tough opponent in the LA Kings, and they're playing well right now, and they play physical. I don't think we necessarily had our best game yesterday by any means, but I still think that even with the level of play we had yesterday, it would probably be enough to beat the Ducks. And I don't imagine they're going to be, that that slow out the gate. You know, they had the Christmas break and whatnot, but now you got a game under your feet and a little bit of fire in your belly after losing to the Kings in overtime. So yeah, I feel like as long as they come out and play their at least B level, there should be no problem tonight.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I do think, and Wise Kyle put it in the chat too. He said, I think Dostal will stand on his head, and the Oilers have had to go up against Dostal, and that has happened to them. So I do kind of see that as the way that Edmonton could fall in this game if Lucas Dostal doesn't prevent them at every single opportunity that he can. But I guess too, like the Oilers have a big opportunity with Dostal playing in back-to-back games, and that's a positive one. Do you have a score prediction for us, Pat? And we'll let you peer off into the background again.
Score prediction. I'd like to say that Pix is going to get, the inevitable, but I don't know if that's exactly true. So I'm probably going to stick 4-1. I mean, I'm hoping for it, but I just feel like it's going to happen. So 4-1 would be my guess.
And I guess too, we spoke about it a little bit before the show, but it did happen quite late. Jeff Skinner not in the lineup tonight. What do you make of that decision to go with Derek Ryan instead of Jeff Skinner?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, some of that could be because it's Ryan's birthday, but I also think in a sense, you can't have a guy sitting on the side for too long. And a guy like Derek Ryan, he's fine with sitting in the press box if, he still gets to be a part of the team. And it helps send a message to Jeff Skinner as well, right? Like having that option to bring in Derek Ryan when you need someone to take a break, and it's back-to-back games too. I think it's a good kick for Jeff Skinner, and I think Derek Ryan's going to come in and play hard as he always does, and you know what you're getting from him. So I don't mind it at all.
I also have decided Derek Ryan is now just the greatest Oiler after that video of him just skating around the ODR with all those kids that was going over Christmas. Like, that's pretty cool. I know a lot of the Oilers were out there, but for him to, it looked like he was kind of on his own, or maybe it was just the other side of the rink. But Derek Ryan, a good man, an Oil man.
Deserve some ice time.
There you go. All right, Pat, we'll let you pair off into the background again. Thank you very much. Looking over in the Odd Company Brewing chat, I went to the ODR yesterday and took some, I might have taken 4 Nation beers with me, and it's a good ODR beer, I'll tell you that much. Levi Charlton in the chat said 7-2 Oil Dostal doesn't see the halfway mark. I think if Anaheim ends up putting in that other goalie, we could see the score even get higher than that. I don't know a ton about him, but if the fact that they think it's better for them to play Dostal in back-to-back games rather than call up and give him a go, then I think that says a lot too. Levi also went on to say 4 points for Connor McDavid. Wise Kyle, like we mentioned, 2 on Edmonton Oilers. What else have we got in here? Southpaw, I think the Oil will be unsatisfied after last night's loss. Yeah, I think they were pretty upset about that one. It seemed to be not an overreaction, but it was an interesting outcome from a lot of the stuff they were saying. But first game back from the break is always a tough one, I think. Final buzzer 4-2 Oil. Duck, wait, DR10 sucks so much. Come on. It's Christmas-ish. Squishy for breakfast. Zach Hyman goal. Anything else? People are saying what is an ODR? Outdoor rink. My friend has one in his backyard, and it was awesome. I wore my Devon Shore jersey, and now my knees are absolutely killing me today. So it's been a tough one. Let's get into the Sherwood Power Sports and Marine starting goalies. Hit the trails this winter and the waves next summer. As fellow hockey fans, the team at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine are helping nation citizens gear up. They're the home of the ATV for just $50 bi-weekly, or cruise the open waters next summer for as low as $105 bi-weekly. Sherwood Power Sports Marine are hockey fans, helping hockey fans get ready for their next adventure. And as we mentioned, Calvin Pickett is going to get, sorry, we did not mention that. Calvin Pickett is getting the start for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. The last game was that San Jose Sharks game where he allowed 2 goals, but still managed to come out with the win along with a .909 save percentage. He's been pretty reliable all season. Save percentage right now over 900, 901, 2.37 goals against, and 8 wins in 12 games for the Oilers. I know that's something Aaron always likes to point out is, hey, if your backup's winning, you're in good shape. Lucas Dostal so far this year doing really well considering who the Anaheim Ducks are. with a 915 save percentage. We'll continue on here to the lineup, the Edmonton Oilers lineup. Obviously, the big note is that Derek Ryan is in for Jeff Skinner, and everything else looks to be pretty much exactly the same as Pat pulled it up before. Matthias Janmark is listed as a centerman on the forward group, but I would assume Derek Ryan goes in there, captain on the third line with Henrique and Connor Brown. The second line remains the same too. Podkolzin, Draisaitl, and Arvidsson. The first line, Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, and Zach Hyman as per usual. And the set of defensemen, Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Stetcher, Kulak, Emberson. Moving on to the Anaheim Ducks lines, which are brought to you by Greta. You can head downtown to Greta whenever you like. Enjoy some street food. All the arcade games are awesome. Drinks, everything you ever want. It's also New Year's Eve coming up, folks. Maybe Greta is the spot for you, and it should be, because it is awesome. The road lineup, I guess the home lineup this time around for the Anaheim Ducks. First line, Frank Vetrano, Ryan Strome, Troy Terry. Obviously, the biggest threat comes up there. Troy Terry, former 40 goal scorer, along with Frank Vetrano. Second line, Alex Killorn, Leo Carlson, Brett Leeson. Third line, Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish, the world junior hero, Robbie Fabry. Fourth line, the world junior hero is Mason McTavish, not Robbie Fabry, by the way. Fourth line, Ross Johnson, Isaac Lundstrom, and Jensen Hawkins. Deep pairings, Jackson Lacombe, Radko Gudas, Brian Dumoulin. The others get a first look at Jacob Trouba as an Anaheim Duck, Pavel Minchikov, and Drew Helleson. And then, of course, as we said, Lucas Dostal is the starting goaltender for the Anaheim Ducks. They've got some players. They're not a nobody team. They've got some talent. I don't know when they'll be as good as what like a playoff team should be, but they can be threatening, I could say the least. And I think especially too, like we said, Lucas Dostal is capable of stealing games. Again, does the back-to-backs help them or not? I would assume probably not. But let's move on to the Bet365 Boardsy's bankroll. Like we said off the top, you can make an account over at Bet365 right now and bet on a huge range of markets. So make sure you use the code NATION when you sign up, because it's awesome. Download the app today over at Bet365. I went with 3 picks today for Boardsy's bankroll. And if you watch Oilersnation every day, you will know I lead it. I'm up 10 units on the season. So we're going to go with Zach Hyman, anytime goal scorer, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, power play point, which is plus 215, anytime goal scorer for Zach Hyman is plus 150. Draisaitl, even money for 2 points today. I could see him getting a couple there. So you want to go and move on to those quickly, especially the Draisaitl one as we get approach puck drop here. I think that one could flip around. So if I'm not mistaken, Pat, do you make a poll and then we decide the winners? Is that how this goes?
Yeah, there's a poll up right now. Currently, anytime goal for Hyman is at 67%.
Okay, there you go. Zach Hyman did not get a goal yesterday, but plus 150 is still a great. Do you know what I did bet on yesterday, Pat? I had a Victor Arvidsson goal at plus 400 yesterday. That was juicy.
Yeah, betting on the revenge games. I can't believe I didn't parlay Arvidsson with Fogle. Like, I can't believe I didn't do that. It makes too much sense.
If you're looking for some redemption on it today, you could go over and bet on Corey Perry or Adam Henrique to snipe home a goal for the Oilers tonight too. You'd be getting pretty bold if you decided to do that, but it's an option over at Bet365. Adam Henrique currently plus 325 to score. Corey Perry plus 375. When do we wrap up the poll?
I can wrap it up right now. I think it's probably close to game time now. So
yeah,
probably.
What we're looking at here? I'm assuming Hyman is gonna win. Is that the one then Aaron goes to bet on?
Yeah, 60%. Well, he usually does each one individually and then parlays all 3. But
okay,
if you're looking to be responsible, you could probably just pick the one.
Yeah, maybe pick one. Let me know which one you're betting on in the chat there. All right. The last thing we'll mention, the Nation Vacation coming up to Vegas. Nation Vacation. So I would highly recommend you go sign up there. You can go over to nationgear.ca and sign up March 30th to April 2nd. There is a ton of good stuff going in this. Obviously, you get to go and watch the Oilers play the Vegas Golden Knights, and there's some sweet stuff that's going to happen in the where you'll be watching the game. I know there was a comment, I believe it was the first one of the day from Minster. Can you help me convince my wife to let me go on a nation vacation? My birthday is on the 2nd of April, so it's basically a birthday present to myself. I think your wife should let you. That's all I'm going to say. I think she should. It's also Bag Milk's birthday as well that weekend, so we'll see. It's going to be an absolutely juicy one, but drop your score predictions in the chat again. I think today the Edmonton Oilers will win. I'm going to say 5-2. I could see the first period being relatively close, and then the Oilers are just able to pull away in the second. So I'm going to go with a 5-2 Edmonton Oilers win. I have the Oilers game on the TV here now, and I can see Gene Principe is with all the Oilers mums. So on that note, we'll let everybody go and watch the Edmonton Oilers take on the Anaheim Ducks. We'll be back, Pat and I, for post-game show after dark. We're going to try and go immediately after. So get ready. As soon as this game is done, turn on your YouTube account, go over to the Oilersnation YouTube and jump in the chat and let us know your thoughts on the game. Until then, go Edmonton Oilers, and we will see you guys on the other side. Enjoy the game.